All right, so I'm Matt Baker. I'm responsible for strategy for our enterprise organization. So that covers server storage, networking, software, you name it, services associated with enterprise solutions. So what I wanted to do is come talk to you all about sort of what's happening at Dell. I heard there were some questions about, what's happened post-privatization, all of that good stuff. And so what I thought I'd do is just tell you from an enterprise business perspective what we've been focused on for the past year since we went private, what it means, give you an idea of what that means, and sort of where are we headed and why are we headed that way. So does that make sense? Jump in with questions anytime. I don't want to kill you with too many slides. So first of all, the go private thing, the way I like to describe it is we're a large company, somewhere around 100,000 people. So we are a rather large battleship. And the go private, in essence, we had one rudder, we now have 4, we have Omni drives, and we have a bow thruster. So we're like the world's most maneuverable battleship, but we're still a battleship. We're still full of different groups, organizations, but we feel like it's enabled us to make decisions more quickly, more agilely, and really focus, and I think you'll hear Michael talk about this quite a bit, really remain focused 100% on the customer versus the 90-day shot clock associated with reporting our financial earnings, etc. So we're excited about where we are today. We've been gaining share. The business is quite healthy, and we're really excited about how that's going. So over the past year, from a strategy standpoint, nothing's really changed, actually. In fact, you'll hear many analysts talk about the fact that Dell's been pretty consistent over the past 3 to 4 years about what we're doing, what we're trying to do. The one thing that, I think we always got dinged for was, all right, we want to see this happen, pace, pace, pace. And so our goal over the last year has been to increase that pace and reach out and touch more customers more ways. So first of all, a big focus is not technical or product. It's this notion of an omni-channel strategy. Our heritage was as a direct company, but today greater than 40% of our revenue actually flows through channel partners. We've had a concerted effort over the past number of years to increase that, and it's accelerating at a faster pace over the past year. So that's a main focus, moving from what has historically been a fully direct business to one that is omni-channel across the globe. Another area is around sort of deepening our partnerships across both the ISV community, the systems integrator community as another channel for our products, but also a solutions partner across all sorts of new partnerships. So we're sort of deepening our focus on working with others. Our goal is to build the largest solutions ecosystem that we can to bring the most value to our customers. We've always been largely based on open standards and that open approach, and we've always been very good at partnering. We entered into the storage business in the enterprise by partnering, first with NetApp a long, long time ago, then with EMC, and then we started doing a lot of stuff on our own. So we have a heritage of partnerships, and I think to some degree we're reviving that a little bit. We were out there a little bit on our own, and we're reviving our focus on a broad ecosystem of partnerships. And of course, continuing to focus on this notion of practical innovation. We're not always first, but I like to think of the fact that we're fittest, and by fittest I mean the one who simplifies these solutions, makes them more applicable for the most number of customers, as well as them being the sort of fastest time to value, delivering the most value, price, performance, etc. So that's what we've been doing over the past year. Our heritage, again, is not necessarily first but fittest, and we've sort of shown through a successive wave of industry transformations that we're the company that takes and drains cost and complexity out of computing solutions and accelerates them to mass adoption. We did that obviously with PCs. That was one of the sort of hallmarks of the business. we started the server business, or what we now think of as the beginnings of the enterprise business, right around the beginning of the dot-com boom. And if you all recall, for many years, most of the web was based on Sun servers, very expensive Sun servers. And then once it was an interesting technical problem. Spark systems were very poor at processing encryption algorithms at the time, and Intel processors were not. So as soon as everyone went to e-commerce and started driving everything through SSL, all the Sun servers went like dog slow. And they found, okay, well, these Intel-based processors with that floating point unit, much better at processing, blah, blah, blah. I can support more transactions. That was right when Dell had started to get really engaged in the server business, and that flew it out the door and added a lot of velocity to that internet and dot-com boom. Since we're here for Virtualization Field Day, Dell was an early advocate of virtualization, primarily because we saw it as a lever on cost and complexity that had been built up over time. So the single server, single application, delicate, fragile architecture that most people had built applications on top of led to cost and complexity. It didn't necessarily start there, but it ended there. And virtualization became this great tool for draining out the complexity that we'd built up through Cruft and different methods for years and years. The area that we're really sort of pushing forward to now and really excited about is this notion of the digital business revolution. And I think if you think about what's happening relative to digital business models, digital disruption of traditional business models, a lot of that's fueled through new application architectures, leveraging mobile consumers, et cetera, and it's driving new needs. Today, I would say that those methods and models are not necessarily perfected, but well understood, but only in two major zip codes, Silicon Valley and Wall Street. And our goal is to help democratize the notion of digital transformation for the most number of companies. Because if you're in a business today that's not as the taxi industry may be becoming, et cetera, you soon will be. And we want to prepare people for that with the technology solutions and platforms to help them get there. So that's kind of where we're focused. And again, it's all about taking and draining out complexity, making powerful solutions easy to use, driving out inefficiency, and really delivering that notion of superior long-term value that we don't see in those first-to-market innovative platforms, which people then charge a lot of money for. Go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. So back to merge that idea with the recent privatization. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of us are primarily focused on technology, but we end up as advisors to a lot of companies as well, and we help with strategic, long-term kind of goals for these organizations. I can't help but feel that when, Dell was taken private, we kind of lost some transparency into the process. I was wondering if you could tell us some more about how Dell is going to be increasing transparency to help people like us advise on, Dell is really committed to this because, formerly we had with the quarterly reports, we had,
Sure.
More transparency into the process, I think. Do you feel like that's something you're going to work on increasing so that we can feel better about your committing to a product or committing to a line?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that the only thing that we've really lost in the process of the go private from a communication standpoint, from my perspective, is that quarterly call cadence with Wall Street. At which point it was not necessarily, I think, germane to most consumers. It was more of a dance around with investors.
Well, we're all kind of investors in your product at this point.
Absolutely, and I'm not trying to reduce that or reduce the question. What I'm getting at though is that what we've done instead is we've added a number of new forums that we started last year and that we're continuing with this year. We traditionally had a number of industry analyst conferences. We've had obviously Dell World. We've had a number of different user forums and different technology forums. The cadence of those will increase. In fact, we started with a number. We're sort of moving towards set pieces physically located, and then adding a number of different webcasts. So this year, we added a webcast for analysts. We'll continue to do that for influencers as well. I think what we need to do is hear back from you of how do you want to consume that more. I think we've been more out there than ever before, but we've done it less formally. And so I think feedback from you of how you want to consume it would be really positive. And we're very open. You know, we'll tell you whatever you want to know. We won't tell you about the financial details of the company. We don't have to tell anybody about that, but we will tell you things are going well now. And our commitments to products are not necessarily incumbent upon us releasing them to Wall Street. We want to communicate them to you. So just tell us how you want to hear about it, and we'll be there.
Thank you.
So, yeah, please.
Do you still see in 2015 that Dell is very much looking for acquisitions to broaden their portfolio?
Yeah, I think that we will continue to look to acquisitions and investments. You know, what we've been doing more recently is a lot of venture investing through our Dell Venture wing. And that's, you know, I wouldn't say early stage, but middle stage companies. Instead of starting our own incubator at the time, we're actually participating in other partners' incubators. I am sitting on a few of those. So we're still looking towards others or investments or even partnerships. I mean, you've seen we announced a partnership with Nutanix, which is frankly gotten rather large as of late, but a fairly new company as it relates to solutions. I think you'll see more of the partnership. I don't think you'll see in the short term any real big blockbuster investments. It's just a function of when you go private, you take on debt and you have to service that debt. Moreover, we've eaten a lot of big meals in the last 5 years, and it takes time to digest those. And I think we've recognized that we still have some digesting to do across the portfolio. I mean, we've got to. I'm excited that you guys are going to hear from the vFoglight team, but Quest has got a lot of stuff. I mean, they ate a lot of stuff, and they still have digesting to do. So we're still working our way through that. We're not saying no acquisitions, but we're also not saying that the pace might not be as quick as it had been in the past. Sure.
Are you going to get out of the hardware business eventually, or is that sustainable for you against Chinese manufacturers like Lenovo?
It's incredibly sustainable. I don't think we'll be getting out of the hardware business anytime soon. It's sustainable. I also think that there's more value levers than you might think in that supply chain. And not necessarily like squeezing cost out, but you know, once you get outside of a few certain types of industries, global support scale is important. Except for the very largest, very concentrated data center operators.
Cloud providers?
Yeah, large cloud providers.
Their own servers, for instance.
They are building their own servers, and I would say that that is a set of juggernauts who have the capability and have a vast amount of OpEx dollars to spend on investing in doing it themselves. We don't think that that's necessarily. It's not that others couldn't do it. I don't know if the scale at which they operate makes it economically viable. You know, plenty of people are trying to do it who may not be at that scale, and we're participating. I mean, we're on the Open Computing organization. A lot of those people are our customers, and I will tell you, there's more value there. Not necessarily in the hardware, but you know, the notion of buying, you know, 50,000 servers at a time, if you could buy them 5 at a time and have them manufactured really close to you, as an example, that could be incredibly valuable. And people have eventually have outsourced their supply chains after they've done everything themselves. So these things are pendulums that swing through time. We think it's very viable. Frankly, there's still a lot of disrupting that we have to do, because if you go then flip over to other companies in other industries, we have, I'll use maybe a less flattering way of saying it, but we've drained the profit swamps of lots of industries. There's still plenty of IT industries. There's still plenty of fetid profit swamps for us to drain, and I think pass that value along to customers. And that's what I mean by these curves. Is the curves that a lot of people are really proud of the technology they bring, and they want you to pay for it, and they get addicted to that, and they want to hang on to that. We're here to run people down that curve and create more velocity for technology. Like I said, we're not always first, but we're certainly fittest and driving that out. So I think I'm probably running pretty low on time or over. Can someone give me
a quick one if you've got a chance?
Yeah, no, please.
Do you have an example of something that Dell's been able to do as a private company that you wouldn't have been able to do as a public one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure that I would say that there's anything that we have done that we could not have done as a public company. I will say the pace at which we make those decisions to do them is radically different. For one major reason is that in a large company, you can't make big decisions without the leadership team paying attention and making that decision. There's far fewer distractions as a public company for that echelon of executive at Dell. So the engagement, the examination, the whole process of making decisions, the pace at which we do that has just jumped by orders of magnitude. And in doing so, it's not as if we're making different decisions that we would not have made and now we're able to. It's more that we're making lots of decisions where we may have had trouble given the amount of time and energy spent on other things. We're making those decisions much faster. So I wouldn't say, I can't give you an example of something we're doing right now that we wouldn't have done as a public company, but I can give you lots of examples of decisions. Actually, I probably can't give you lots of examples because some of them are not things that I want to share. But I can assure you that there's plenty of examples of decisions that we've made very rapidly that we just weren't making the progress in past years that we wanted, and now we're moving faster. And that's probably the biggest thing. Like I said, still a battleship. We'd still make the same decisions to fire our guns that direction, but now we're able to turn this thing much faster and pursue, I don't want to say pursue the enemy, but make the right decisions to go after the right things for our business and, more importantly, for our customers.
Okay, thank you.
So, time. All right, I didn't go through any of my materials, or not many of them, but that's good. I hope that to be the case. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And just I'm at Matt W. Baker on Twitter. If you want to reach out, I'm happy to chat more.